one and all present here. I extend a warm welcome to all the participants for joining today's webinar on the topic How to Unlock the Lockdown for Employees Through the Lens of Positivity, hosted by the PG Department of Social Work, DG Vaishnav College. I'm glad to welcome our speaker for today's session, Dr. Priyadarshini N, Group Manager in Learning and Development at WNS Global Services. Before entering into the session, I kindly request all the participants to mute your audio. At the end of this session, participants can post their questions in the chat box or can ask questions directly, wherein we have separate time allotted for question and answer. Now, I would like to deliver a short introduction on DG Vaishnav College. Dwaraka Das Govardhan Das Vaishnav College, with the sole purpose of imparting knowledge and value-based education, saw its grand day on the 30th June 1964. The college aimed at imparting value-based quality education and empowering the youth. Outstanding performance of the students in academics and extension activities has enabled the college to emerge as one of the premier institutions of higher learning. The curriculum is reviewed and updated periodically in keeping with the changes in diverse disciplines of arts, commerce, science, and technology. The college has entered into collaboration with many reputed institutions and organizations. The postgraduate Department of Social Work, from its very day of its inception in the year 1989, has been striving to achieve excellence in the field of social work and human resource management. The department is geared towards providing a value-added, market-driven course in social work education with human resource management as specialization. The department aims at bridging the gap between theory and practice by equipping the students to meet the future demands. Special emphasis is paid to develop the right attitude, skill, and knowledge in the students, which has made the department a much sought after destination for recruiters. Now, I request student coordinator Ritu to deliver a small introduction about our head of the department, Dr. B. Sulupriya.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce Dr. B. Sulupriya, Head of the Department of Social Work. She holds a PhD in Social Work. She has been a welfare officer of Voluntary Coordinating Agency for Child Adoption in Tamil Nadu for 4 years. She holds membership in NHRD, MMA, and other professional organizations. She also presented on the papers such as Challenges of Work, the Burnout Syndrome in the Banking Sector, Women Executive and Workplace Stress, a study on stress management among women executive across sectors in Chennai. Motherhood and quality of work life of women in industry, awareness and educational combat violence on women. She is an assistant coordinator for Indira Gandhi National Open University Study Center at DG Vaishnav College. Happy to have you for today's session, ma'am.
Thank you, Ritu. Now, I would request Dr. Sulupriya ma'am to render the welcome address.
Fantastic morning to one and all present here. I'm audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're audible.
Okay. Yeah. I, on behalf of the Principal, Secretary and Management, faculty and students of PG Department of Social Work at DG Vaishnav College, deem it a privilege to welcome you all in this virtual platform. Bunch of roses to Dr. Priyadarshini, who has graciously accepted our invitation to be with us and share her thoughts on positive psychology, because she has done a lot of work on positive psychology. A couple of weeks ago, we had a webinar on mental health and lockdown. So the objective was to see how the mental health of an individual can be enhanced. So this is the second in the series where the focus is on how to enhance positive mental health in the workplace. Organizations who invest on employee well-being have reaped a lot of benefits, because we know that when the employees are happy, it results in better productivity, better satisfaction, less turnover, and less stress. So in COVID-19 era, the organizations have understood that this particular fact of employee well-being has become very vital. So this session is expected to throw some light under the current context. SHRM, the recent study by SHRM and a lot of Indian studies have revealed that around 22 to 35% of employees have experienced depression after COVID has struck because they feel that out of sight means out of mind. They feel that their dedication and loyalty is being questioned because they are not reporting to the office every day. Their work is being questioned. So this leads to a lot of other associated implications. So this particular scenario calls for the attention of human resource professionals, wherein it is very vital that we invest on the positive mental health of the employees. The employee well-being doesn't mean only being physically fit and mentally active. It means a lot of other factors that are important for us. And how do we experience our life through that? So the current session is expected to throw light on that. Let us grow through what we go through now in embracing the new normal. Hearty welcome to all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request Student Coordinator Devika to deliver the guest profile.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Priyadarshini N, who's going to talk to us on the topic, how to unlock the lockdown for employees through the lens of positivity. This is a subject in which we should all deeply interested in as the COVID-19 crisis progresses towards the recovery and reshape phases. Many organizations look at new way of addressing their workers, changing social, emotional, physical, and financial needs. One of the biggest challenges for businesses who have moved to remote working strategy in response to COVID-19 health emergency is how to support their employees' well-being. While there are many potential upsides to working from home, the end of the commute and more control and flexibility over working day, there can also be downsides including insecurity, isolation, and anxiety. At this juncture, I'm proud to get the privilege to speak about the eminence of Dr. Priyadarshini N. In matter of style, swim with the current. In matter of principle, stand like a rock. This is not just a philosophical quote, but is also the prime motto of our eminent speaker, Dr. Priyadarshini. She is a person with various strengths such as achiever, strong communicator, building a nourishing relationship, adaptable and lifelong learner. She has sculpted herself for her profession and has strong skill in behavioral achievement, felicitation, project management, and training. Apart from her education and career, she is also interested in traveling, reading, cooking, and also singing. Dr. Priyadarshini completed her bachelor degree in psychology at National College, Bangalore in 2004, where she began her first achievement as a university rank holder. Then she completed her master degree in MSWHR in Christ University, Bangalore, and continued her achievement as a gold medalist. Further, she obtained her doctorate in positive organizational behavior from the prestigious institution, Indian Institute of Technology, Madras in 2016. As a student, she had attended and presented her paper in many national and international conferences, and she also holds many national and international level professional certifications. She has extensive knowledge and experience in positive psychology, DISC profiling, neuro-linguistic programming, psychometric assessments, training, delivery, and research. She has a total of 11 years of work experience in human resource management from many reputed companies. Currently, she is working as a group manager in WNS Global Services, located in Pretoria, South Africa. Today, it's our privilege and opportunity to have an intellectual person in our webinar to gain knowledge with her guidance. We digitally welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Devika. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm just going to share my screen and we can start the session.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. First of all, Vanakkam, Namaste, and a very, very good morning to everyone present for today's webinar on how to unlock the lockdown for employees through the lens of positivity, which is something I'm very passionate about. Thank you for each and everyone present on the call. Thank you to DG Vaishnav College. Thank you to Sulupriya ma'am for arranging this webinar in this very unprecedented times. Thank you for taking time out to be here and attend to the session, and I hope you guys go out or go back with some amount of positivity by the end of the session. So I would like to say that, as the coordinator has already mentioned, uh, I will be going through the session for the next 30 to 40 minutes, and then we are going to start having the question and answer sessions. You can either raise your hand, the coordinators are going to unmute you guys, and then you can ask the questions directly to me, or if you're hesitant to do that, you can post your questions on the chat box and the moderators are going to read it out for me. Either ways, please make sure you interact with us, and any questions are more than welcome. So let's begin our session today. So thank you for already reading out my profile and telling a brief background about what is the work I do. So currently, I'm joining you guys from Pretoria, South Africa, and I'm working for a company called WNS Global Services. We are headquartered in Mumbai, but we're situated across the world. And I've been with the company now for over 3 years. And we are also part of Ucademy, which is a corporate learning academy in South Africa, where we provide training and learning solutions to various BPM and other clients alike. So new normal, I think this is something each of us are hearing day in and day out. Let's unpack this a little bit. What is the new normal all about? So home has become a very, very important part in our daily lives. The reasons: we are working from home as opposed to being at office every day. We are doing online shopping wherever possible, so you don't necessarily have to go to the stores. We are also, in some families are in places where you are staying with multiple generations at home. You have your grandparents, you have your younger ones. So many people are staying at the home together for quite number of days now since the lockdown. Families, our homes have also converted into our religious institutions. We no longer go to temples, mosques, or churches. We have converted our homes to the family prayers. Then homes have also turned into be restaurants where everyone is showing their skills in cooking, baking. You see a lot of Instagram posts on this. Also, all your online schooling and education, everything has gone online. So this is the new normal, guys, where the home has become the primary center for different institutions, like I've mentioned now. So with this being the case, let's look at some data or research on mental health during COVID, just to throw light on what is happening in terms of mental space. So a hotline, federal emergency hotline in US said that they've registered more than 1,000% increase in cases of calls since April 2020. Then there is an online therapy company called Talkspace, which speaks of 65% jump in the client call since mid-Feb. And even in India, a recent survey by Indian Psychiatric Society, they've reported an increase of 20% cases of mental illness. And post-COVID landscape will be a fertile breeding ground for chronic stress, anxiety, depression, alcohol dependence, and self-harm. This is something we are looking at in the days coming, and we've already started experiencing it even during the lockdown. So a very interesting study done by Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai, where they've also opened a toll-free line. They have done a research on how their call center has been operating. So some data for you guys. So 52% calls have been related to cases of anxiety. 22% relates to isolation cases, adjustment related issues, 11% on depression, 5% on sleep related difficulties, and other cases where already people have existing mental conditions, they are experiencing a higher rate of mental health cases. What is the age range of the callers? About 18 to 85 years, and 55% of the calls are between the age range of 26 to 40 years. The last data is interesting, insightful, and it shows the current state of thinking in the society. 20% calls have been abandoned calls, meaning people call the helpline and someone picks the call, they just hang up. The reason? Mental health is still a stigma. We have a headache, don't mind going to the doctor. You have a problem with your teeth, you don't have a problem going to the dentist. But you have a mental health issue, then we all kind of shush down or don't talk about it. There is still stigma associated, which is clearly visible in the research on the abandoned calls. So this is some of the data to throw light on what are the mental issues being faced across the world and specifically in India. So would like to do a little bit of a poll time. I'm going to ask you guys two simple questions. First, let me explain the question to you. Then you have two responses. You have to either mention A or B, and the moderators can just do a quick sense for me as to what respondents have answered. Right? First, I'm going to read out the question, and then I'll give you 5 seconds to do your poll. First question: are you guys currently operating on a fight mode or a flight mode? If you say a fight mode, that means are you, let me take COVID as an example. Are you guys really thinking of fighting the issue right now? Or do you feel like, you know what, I'm done with this. I just want to escape to somewhere where there is no COVID. What kind of a mode are you operating right now? You guys can start polling. Either write a or a B. And after 5 seconds, one of the moderators can just let me know what are the most number of responses coming through. I would just like to know. Okay, Niranjan or Ritu, if you guys can tell me what's coming through.
I think both are coming at the same rate, ma'am. Mostly I could see B.
It's a flight mode. Okay, great,
Yes, ma'am.
great. Okay, great, thanks. So next question. Okay, you guys can stop polling on this one. I'm going to ask the next question. Are you guys surviving or thriving? Surviving meaning, are you guys saying, okay, I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm just trying to make through the day? Or are you guys prospering? Are you guys thriving, growing? What do you think you're doing currently? Surviving or thriving? You can start polling now. Okay. Guys, what's coming through?
Mostly A, ma'am.
They're all surviving. Yeah. So this is what was expected, because most of how we deal with our mental health depends on which mode are you operating. If you are just surviving and if you're just fighting, then the mode of operation will be very different. So let's look at a couple of positive resources to help us wade through this uncertain and unprecedented times. So we are going to look at a couple of positive resources today during the course of the session. So the first one is psychological capital. This is the topic in which I had done my PhD on. So if you call it psychological capital, let's see how the topic or the concept came about. It was coined in around the early 2000 by Fred Luthen, the famous organization behavior psychologist. So he says that initially the focus used to be more on traditional capital. That is, people used to focus more on what you have. That is your finances, your tangible assets, your equipments, your whatever is tangible to you. That was very, very important. Then slowly as the society progressed and the industries evolved, then we said, okay, I think human capital is also an important asset to an organization. That is what you know. What are your skills? What are your experiences? What is the skills, knowledge? That's why human capital became a big raging thing a couple of years before, which is still now. That's why we say human capital is a big asset to an organization. Then we slowly moved to social capital, because the world started getting more smaller in terms of technology and revolution. It became a small digital world. So who you know became very important. That is your relationships, your contacts, your friends. You can ask any person who has done a startup. They will know the importance of social capital much more than any of us. Then we have moved to something called a psychological capital, which is who we are as person. That itself is a capital, and it is, why do we say something as a capital? That means if you invest in it, you're going to get returns out of it, right? So that is why it is called as capital. So the four capital resources that we are going to look at today is hope, self-efficacy, resilience, and optimism. There is an acronym to remember this. It's called HERO, HERO, just to help you guys remember it better. So these are some of the psychological capacities you can use during any times, not only this COVID related times, any times in your life, in order to have a positive mindset. And it is believed that through research, it has a huge impact on your well-being, on your satisfaction, on employee engagement, on organizationship, citizenship behavior, and all of these. Let's look at each of these capacities a little bit more in detail. One is self-efficacy, which is believing in one's ability to mobilize cognitive resources to obtain specific outcomes. So when you call self-efficacy, it's more to do with your confidence of how you feel that you can reach your goals, for example. That in itself is a big positive resource. Then hope, very important for our situation today. You need to be hopeful of a better days. You need to be hopeful of better outcomes. So having the willpower and pathways, it's not only enough that you have willpower, but you should also know how do you reach the goal that you've aspired to achieve. Then optimism, that is making a positive attribution about succeeding now and in the future. And resilience, I've not explained resilience in this slide because I'm going to talk a little bit in the next slide in detail about resilience, and I'll tell you why a few minutes now. So these four capacities put together is called as psychological capital. They're very unique positive resources. They're measurable in the sense that you have a survey scale to measure each of these capacities. And yes, you can develop them. For example, confidence. Person might be low on confidence or high on confidence. You can't say you don't have confidence, because through experience and training, you can develop them. And all of these capacities are said to have impact on performance. So all these four capacities put together, you call it as psychological capital. And out of the four capacities, I want to focus more on resilience today. I think all of us have seen many studies speaking about resilience in these times. So let's look at why are we focusing more on resilience. So I really loved this quote from Confucius, which I wanted to talk about. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Uh, how many tragedies has the humankind seen? How many tragedies have we come across? In my lifetime, I can say we have been through tsunami, we've been through floods, we have seen terrorist attacks on our countries, we have seen 9/11 attacks in US. But every time a tragedy strikes, a humankind has a unique ability to bounce back from every situation. And that capacity is called resilience in psychological terms. So what is resilience? Capacity to bounce back from adversity and to grow stronger from overcoming negative events. Why do we say bounce back? Because adversity is a part of life. You can't say that your life is going to be happy always. There is going to be ups and downs. But what matters is how you bounce back after every time you go down. So it involves two elements I wanted to focus on. One is proactive assessment of risks and assets. So during these times, what you can do to increase your resilience, one is do a proactive assessment of your risks. That is, let me take COVID as an example, right? So what are the risks in terms of COVID? Your health, you might get infected, your loved ones might be at risk, your jobs might be at risk, the income for the family might be at risk. These are all the assessment that you need to do now. At the same time, what are the assets that you have? If you're having a job, that in itself a great asset. If you're still being a part of the college and taking your lessons, that is an asset. You have a family to live with, you have all the basic necessities, all of those are considered as your assets. So do a proactive assessment of risks and assets. And what are the strategies by which you can boost your resilience? One is face reality. I think all of us are doing now. There is no way for us to escape COVID, right? You have to face the reality. So you build resilience by facing reality. That's the question I asked in the beginning. Are you guys in a fight mode or on a flight mode? When you're on a flight mode, you would not want to face reality. You would want to move away from reality. That itself talks that you need to deal with that kind of a mindset. Then search for meaning. I think most of the tragedies, I think even in all our personal experiences, whenever a tragedy strikes us, you try to take some meaning out of it. There's a beautiful book by Viktor Frankl, Search for Meaning of Life. It beautifully says, in challenging times when you can't change the situation, we are challenged as human beings to change ourselves. So you need to search for meaning. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt. Can you please increase the volume, ma'am?
Okay, just give me a second.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
This is better now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Fine.
Okay, great. Then the next strategy will be to improvise. Resilience is okay. One strategy does not work. For example, say you're applying for a job interview, for applying for a job, and you attend a couple of interviews, and you're not making it. But every time you need to improve your strategy, improvise your strategy until you reach the goal. So that means you don't give up until you achieve what you want to achieve. Then positive emotions, it's very important. When you're doing all this, you always have to go with a positive mindset. You go with a negative mindset, the chances that you might not be successful are much higher because your mindset determines your outcome as well. I'm going to talk about positive emotions as well in the moving next couple of slides. One more thing I wanted to focus on is also circle of concern and circle of influence. If you guys have read the famous Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he talks of circle of concern and influence. So let's briefly look at what they are. Circle of concern, that is any factor which is outside our control, external to us, over which we have little or absolutely no control. It can be your weather for the day, natural disasters, the epidemic like we're currently facing, the market conditions, the political situation, social media feeds. We have absolutely no control over them, but they still do affect us. Circle of influence, the one at the inside of the circle, that is something over which we have a large amount of control. That talks about your attitude, your thoughts, what you read, how you spend your time, your relationships, the skills you learn. So this is called a circle of influence. So your success depends on where you're coming from, or your mental health depends on which circle are you guys focusing on. If you operate from a circle of concern, those people will always be like, okay, what can I do? There is nothing much I can do. Not getting jobs, lockdown is happening, I can't get out of the house. They're going to constantly keep talking about situations that are not there in their control. But people who operate from a circle of influence, they're going to say, okay, we have lockdown, but what is it that I can do during this time to make myself better, right? So these are two different circles, and always think whenever you have a negative thought, from which circle are you operating? Are you operating from a circle of concern, or are you operating from a circle of influence? So this is also one of the positive resources that you guys can always keep in mind as to from how do you operate in any given circumstances. Next, this we are also told that we're going to talk on employee well-being. Like Sulupriya ma'am said in the beginning, employee well-being is highly talked about. Why? Because employees, as everyone else, while working from home, are facing numerous challenges, which we are also going to talk about. So one of the well-being models which I thought I'll share with you guys is by Martin Seligman. He's called as the father of positive psychology. Amazing work. He's responsible for bringing positive psychology into the light in psychology. Easy to remember, a PERMA model. So one is first is positive feelings or positive emotions. I think as human beings, we have a tendency to have focus too much on negative. If I have to give you an example, it is like a Velcro, something that sticks. Negative experience always sticks and stays with us for a much, much longer time than positive experiences. If you have gone for an interview and you finish the interview, you have done fairly well. You come out of the interview and your friend asks, okay, Macha, how was the interview? So, and what is it that you're going to say? You're going to focus on the questions you did not answer. Out of 20 questions, you might have answered 16 questions, but your mind will always focus on those 4 questions which you have not answered. That's unfortunately the way we are wired. But you can always change that attitude. And positive feelings is something like Teflon, that is your non-stick pan, doesn't stick. So you need to spend a lot of time for the positive emotions to stick, and it has to be intentional, and you need to put a lot of efforts to make that happen. Say, for example, you've just won some competition. So you'll be happy, for example, when you receive a voucher, when you probably post it on Facebook, it's all momentary. It doesn't stay a long time with you. But negative experiences, you would have had one fight with your friend or boss or your spouse, that will stay on for months and years, and after 5 years you'll be like, you know what you did to me in 2015? You still remember that. That's the weird way that we are wired. But like I said, focusing on positive emotions can change that mindset, but you need to put efforts to do that consciously. Second is engagement. Try to find activities that will help you be in the flow. For guys who are interested in the concept of flow, that's also one more interesting concept in psychology. You can Google that. So engagement or finding flow is something when you're so immersed in activity that you lose track of time and place. For example, people who love painting. So when they are painting, they just don't know the space and time. You can go on indulging in that activity for as long as you want. You're completely immersed. So find what is it that helps you to engage. For employees, what is it that they find engaging? You need to involve them in those activities for to increase their well-being. Then relations have to have authentic connections. Keep checking up on your people. You have got amazing time to spend with your family. I think most of the people who are working used to complain that I don't get to spend enough time with my family. And for parents with young kids are always on a guilt trip saying I am not giving enough time to my children. So now you have got the opportunity. I understand there are challenges, but make use of these and build strong authentic connection. And strong relationships are the number one predictor for happiness. Then meaning, I think we've spoken about it. Purposeful existence changes the entire way at which we look at our lives. And achievement, I think most of us like who are achievement oriented uh, tend to find happiness or tend to increase our mental well-being when you feel a sense of accomplishment. It might not be a very large one, but try to even celebrate the smallest achievements that you're able to do within this four confines of your homes currently now. So focusing on any one of these and all of these will improve well-being for employees as well as for individuals. So organizations can look at building up strategies to include and enhance each of these elements which are vital to improve mental well-being or emotional well-being of an individual. Let's look at virtual world. Organizations, like we said, organizations are facing a lot of problems these days, like isolation. We as human beings are social beings. We like to have face-to-face connection, but since we do not have an option now, we have to do with the virtual platforms like we're using today. Then people are also facing something called as e-presenteeism, which is a tendency to be always available online, because people say, okay, your commute time is reduced. You're always available at home. So there is a sense of feeling that I can schedule, as a manager, I can schedule meeting at 8 o'clock in the night because you're at home. I mean, what better work do you have than logging back in? And even for people to be constantly checking emails and responding to emails, it's actually taking a toll on employees, which is leading to burnout. That is why increasing number of stress, increasing number of cases of anxiety, increasing burnout cases are being reported out of employees. And research has said that people are working for longer working hours than what they used to do before. And the boundaries between work and family have become very unclear and blurred. You might be doing multiple things at the same time. You might be taking care of a child's lessons, helping them to get onto the online platform, while you're also attending to a meeting, attending to a mail, keeping a tab on what is cooking in the kitchen. Uh, you are doing multiple things. So the boundaries are becoming very blurred. That is why having different physical spaces like office and home used to work better, but now you have to develop strategies to have clear boundaries. So what can you do as leaders and what can you do as employees to help yourselves or to deal with the situation currently? As leaders, what can you do is you need to role model vulnerability. That is, give yourselves permission to be human. The situations are uncertain. You might not know all the answers at any given point in time, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. When you show how vulnerable or how raw your emotions are, then employees will take that and say, oh, I'm not the only one. There are other people, and even my leaders are feeling the same. We are all undergoing through the same thing. So that itself gives a lot of confidence in them. So role model vulnerability, have a well-being action plans. I think most of the organizations have employee assistant plans. So get a lot of online counseling, online mental health facilities available to employees, support them where it's required, and identify the vulnerable. Like we spoke of psychological capital, not everybody might have resilience to bounce back from everyday's uh, troubles or adversities. Some people might have lost their loved ones. Some people might have got stuck in a different part of the world where they're not able to meet the families. Single parents, aged people living with aged parents. identify those who are very vulnerable to all this stress and provide additional support as an employer of the organization. It will go a long way in retaining your employees. Communication, communication, communication. I think the less I say, it will be an understatement. Uh, Very, very important, because if you can see all the world leaders, say the Prime Minister of India, or say even the President of South Africa, frequently keep coming and addressing people. Why do you think? Because they need to, even they don't have the answers. The world doesn't have answers currently, but frequent communication will kind of build trust in the people, in the citizens, and it also shows them what are the strategies that you're doing. It's not like people are the employers and leaders are not doing anything. They are doing, but it needs to be communicated through all possible channels, because we are physically not present in office. Then empathy, always operate from a space of empathy, than a space of okay, what is the productivity today? Have you met your deliverables? Have you met your SLAs? You still need to have those conversations for businesses to run, but always operate from an angle of empathy. And what can you do as employees, or what can you do even as students, right? So connect with each other, of course, on a virtual platform, but connect on, say, have a meeting once a week for non-work related talks, because we miss our coffee table conversations, or our lunch breaks. You used to take a smoke break, or whatever breaks that you used to take in office. That part of connection is largely missing in our lives. So that is something that we need to connect back. Take notice. Whenever you have any training on communication, we used to play a large importance to non-verbal communication, and today that's absent. You don't know their gestures, you don't know their body language, you don't know their facial expressions. All you know is their voice, right? Because not all calls are video calls. So take notice if you find that your employees are not being heard. Take notice if your employees are not being okay. Take notice of your colleagues and be there for each other. So you need to take notice of even the slightest change that you find in your peers or colleagues. Don't judge. Everybody is fighting their own battle, right? So do not judge, be empathetic to each other, and self-compassion before doing any of this. Famous saying, my favorite quote, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So your cup must be full first. So make sure you take enough amount of self-care. Only then you will be able to help others. Celebrate even the smallest achievements, which will help you go a long way in building positive emotions. And energy management. I think energies are being, how do I say, shared between multiple competing priorities. You are focusing your energy on your work, on your family, on your kids. Everything is happening at the same time. So you're very likely to feel drained out at the end of the day. So you need to know how to manage your energies by the end of the day. Even social media, spending a lot of time on social media can drain you, because there is a lot of negativity which is coming across in those forums. So what can we do as employees? What can we do as organizations? What can we do as students, staff, teachers, anyone on the call or on the webinar? Micro habits, I feel this is very important and easy concept for us to go through, because you don't have to put a huge goal in front of you saying, I need to lose 10 kilos in 1 month. Not going to happen. So build micro habits, small habits, which you can do every day, and over a sustained period of time, they become habits that you can take care of. 2 minutes of gratitude. Either start your day or end your day with gratitude. However worse the situation is, there will always be something to be grateful for. Your family, food on the table, there is a shelter for you, you still have a job, you're studying. All of those things are something to be grateful. I think if COVID has taught us something, it is not to take all these things for granted, and protect them and cherish them when they are with us. Unfortunately, I think the irony of life is we value something in its absence. Let's value something in its presence as well. So write one thank you letter to your employees or your colleagues saying how wonderful they've been over the past months. All these small things can make a huge difference. 10 minutes of physical movement. I think a sedentary lifestyle is causing a lot of problems for our physical health, because our human bodies are made for movement, not for sitting. But unfortunately, that's what we are doing for most of the day. So make sure you build in small few minutes of walking, stretching, or whatever physical movement that you guys want to do. Then 2 minutes of meditation for people who can do meditation. It has great benefits across all age groups. Anyone who can even just sit for 2 minutes in silence, that will make a huge difference. And if somebody likes to write down their thoughts, brilliant. You can do journaling, just write down their thoughts. And you all should always also remember that we are living in like a historic times, if I can say. We might be telling about the story of COVID to your children, to your grandchildren. You know what, in 2019, 2020, this is what was happening. So write those thoughts down, that they can be published at some time later, or you can just share it with your loved ones. Express generosity to one person a day, to your mom who's cooking meals after meals after meals and snacks day after day. Express your gratitude to them. Express generosity. Be thankful for what they're doing for you. Practice positive self-talk. The person who you talk the most with is yourself. How many thoughts do you have in a day, or even in a minute? Thousands, right? So those thoughts that you are with, try to make them as positive and encouraging and enhancing as possible, because that will in turn be a big differentiator in your everyday activities, because you are the person who's most important, because you will talk to yourself more than anyone else. Okay, so there are two ways to look at any situation. It can be a threat or it can be an opportunity. So I would want to take the lens of an opportunity, and you can do different things. Unleash your creativity at this time. Books, if you're a book lover, how many times we buy books and say, you know what, I have never found time to read something. So pick up that book you wanted to read from a long time and read those books. Learn new skills. I think technology is a big enabler for us. Learn skills. There are so many courses online which are freely accessible. There are a lot of MOOC courses. You have your Coursera's, you have your EDX, you have your TED Talks, you have different skills that you can learn, which in itself can be like a enhancing skill for your life. Then if you're a music lover, listen to new kind of music, watch a new genre of movie, do something that you have not done before, cultivate new hobbies, connect to people. And I think this is a very good time. Most of the people are available at home. Even if you say you want to get into some coaching or mentoring, you want to get in touch with someone that you've been admiring for a long time, just drop in a message or mail to them. You never know how they're going to respond, or they might respond at the end of the day. So you might build new connections in your field or in your field of interest. Do that. And I think the seventh one is very important. Research on mental health. Say in your organizations or in your department in social work in the college, run a survey on mental health and see what is the level of mental health of people. What are they struggling with? You will be able to address problems only if you are able to identify them. So take that first step. I don't know how many organizations are even, yes, they are doing a lot of well-being and employee assistance program, but is it a targeted approach? Is it a focused approach? That is something that needs to be ascertained first. So you can conduct researches and publish your results, and then a focused approach can be taken to help your employees, to address all the challenges that they're facing currently. Online support groups, even within employees, especially if you're working in the field of HR or your learning development, you can have your own support groups. And even for students, have your own online support groups, coach somebody, mentor somebody. We can provide support even virtually. Doesn't have to be physical presence like we used to do before. Like I said, times are changing. So try and use any platform that is available to you in order to not only help yourselves, but also help others. Because I think you get a lot of meaning in life when you're turned outwards to changing the life of others. I think when you're doing social work, the favorite question, it used to be 10 years back, used to be, okay, why social work? And I think the most popular answer then, I don't know, it has changed now, was help others, help themselves. So if that is your motto, so why not start doing it now? There is a lot of things that you can do with any organizations. And I think every organization will welcome resources, because every organizations are working on a shortage of resources. So make use of these opportunities. And the last thing, what you put your attention on grows. If you put your attention on panic, panic grows. You put your attention on anxiety, anxiety grows. If you put your attention on positivity, positivity will grow. So be very careful where your attention is going, be very conscious about it. And if you want change in life, focus on change. If you want opportunities in life, focus on opportunities, and they are going to come to you in leaps and bounds than you can imagine. So that is the end, guys. And these are the two research links I wanted to share with you. I'll ask the coordinators to share this link with you guys. I'm collaborating with my colleagues in IIM Indore and alumni from IIT Madras, and we are just doing this COVID research on students and on working population. So if you guys can take 10 minutes to get your data and survey to us, so that will be a huge help in our research. So we are looking at a pan-India and a global study just to ascertain what is being the impact of COVID at different points of time since the outbreak in India and in the world. So that's it. Thank you for patiently listening to me. And I would open it for question and answers. You guys can speak directly to me, or as I said in the beginning, you can post questions on the chat box.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants who willing to ask doubts with ma'am can raise their questions either in pasting in the chat box or can raise their hand so the host can unmute them to ask questions.
So assuming no questions. I'm just seeing something in the chat box. Even if I'm feeling positive, how do I deal with negative feelings of those around? Okay, that's a great question, Anusha. So I think that if you're feeling positive, and how do I deal with negative feelings of those around? I think if like the strategies that I have outlined currently, right? So if you're positive, first of all, that vibes and that energy will help to translate. You have to practice a lot of empathy, listening, and all the positive psychological capacities. I said optimism, confidence, everything can be built, and there are a lot of resources available online to help others to develop these capacities. So probably if you're not a professional, you can look at these resources to help others using these positive capacities.
Ma'am, we have another question
Yes.
from Laboni Basu. How we able to control our anger during COVID situation?
Okay. Okay, nice question. I think you need to first understand what is your source of anger. From where is the anger coming from? Is it coming from a space of I'm not able to do anything, I'm not able to go out, or I'm just stuck in my home, I'm not able to do anything? First, identify where is the source of anger, and then we can work towards addressing that source of anger. What we do is we generally focus more on the symptoms than on the causes. First, try to analyze where is that coming from. That in itself will give you a lot of answers of how to deal with it.
Yes, ma'am. We have another question from Kannan Nair.
Yeah.
He's asking, how can communication unlock the lockdown situation of employees?
Okay. Kanan, nice question. Communication. Imagine you're the leader of an organization, and all your employees are working from home. They don't know what strategies their employers are taking in order to take care of mental well-being of employees, or even general working of the employees. So that itself will pose a lot of problem. Communication will tell the employees that the employer is with them. The communication will tell the employers what the employers are doing, or what strategies they are taking to work with the clients to make sure their revenues are not affected. So that is why communication about a lot of strategies become very important. I think in WNS we're also doing one interesting thing, that we're amplifying positive messages. For example, each of us might be helping some others in different ways. You might have helped an organization by giving them food supplies, for example. So we try to encourage people to get those stories, and we communicate it across business, where we are also changing the storyline from all the negativity of media, focusing on our own employees and our own good work that they're doing. So there are a lot of strategies that you can use through communication to help others. I think someone has raised their hands. Niranjan, any other questions?
Once again, ma'am, we have received two questions.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. There are new issues like confrontation in the family while working from home. What are the general issues the people face from your studies when the employees work from home? What is the solutions that you recommend?
I think I have touched briefly on different problems that employees face while working, like isolation, unclear boundaries between working from home, and somebody said also confrontation. I think most of us, what happens is every day morning at 8, everyone goes to our different workspaces. Kids go to school or college, and parents go to work. So this time is actually called for a time of coexistence. You need to learn how to coexist with each other's demands and needs, and that in itself requires a lot of understanding of each other. So you need to use this time to get to understand each other's needs and learn to coexist with each other with the limited resources we have.
Yes, ma'am. Kapil Bansal has a question. I think he wants to ask a question directly.
Okay. Yes, Kapil.
Uh, Good morning, ma'am. First of all, I just like to thank all the organizers and especially you. Like you have taken the entire session in such a positive way. Like we have got so many positive inputs. And with regard to I'm a HR business partner for a logistics concern. And my question, it's not a question actually. I just wanted to have some insights from your end on how do you think like reskilling will be effective during this new normal. Like when we are moving towards new normal, like we are reorganizing our process, policies, and other things. Since you're an expert into the training and development, learning and development division, I want to understand from you how reskilling of employees can be done or how can it be made more effective, because this is a particular thing like which everyone will have to accept at this point of time, like survival of the fittest. Who accepts the change now can survive, who does not will have to move out. So can you just make me understand, like I need some input from your end on that.
Okay, Kapil, I wasn't able to hear most of the thing because it was very muffled. Coordinators, if you had heard the question, can you please repeat it to me?
Can I repeat? Am I audible now, ma'am?
No,
Kapil-
Kapil, you're still
Kapil,
very muffled.
Can you post the question in the chat box, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry, Kapil, I couldn't hear you.
No problem. I'll post it on the chat box.
Yes.
Give me 1 minute. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, ma'am. In the meantime, can I read another question, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Okay, ma'am. This is from Gayatri Shankar. How to identify the thin line between optimal communication and over communication in an organization, as there is information overload at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think it's a brilliant question. Very apt for the current times. Yes, there is a very thin line between optimal communication and over communication. So organizations need to. I think we are being bombarded with information for a couple of reasons. One, physically you're not present in office. The next only other way to reach employees is through emails or mass emails that go through. But as an employee, you need to take those information which is relevant to you, because there are so many information which might be just like a FYI for your information. You might have so many emails on the risk, the IT security, and all of this, which is also essential. But know what messages to consume and what messages or communication is valuable to you. I think it's under the discretion of an employee to take what is feasible, because as an organization, there has to be communication largely in order to reach many employees, but employee needs to take the discretion of what to consume and what not to consume.
And we have another question from Gulam Hussain.
Yeah.
He asked, what habits we make for controlling anger?
Okay. Okay, I think anger is coming across a lot. There are different things you can there are different things you can do. Like I said in the beginning, you need to identify your source of anger. I wouldn't suggest a one fit all approach, because your strategy will determine from the source of anger. For example, you could get into something like a meditation. I'm just making example that might not work for you, but can be meditation, can be a breathing exercise, can be physical exercise. Because remember, lot of energy is, especially among young students, it's being bottled up now. You don't have an outlet for that energy. That might come up as a built up anger. So you need to identify what is it that helps you, what is it that helps you calm down? Watching a movie, listening to music, dancing, what is it that helps you calm down? You need to identify what works with you and then work with that strategy.
Ma'am, the next question is from our sir, Dr. V. Sai Kumar. How do you prepare the managers in short time to equip themselves to deal with mental health issues of employees and their families?
Okay, thanks for that. That's a good question. I think most of the managers are not equipped as say they need to wear different hats. They need to move from hat of a manager to hat of a coach to hat of a counselor. So you need to first equip even your leaders and managers of the organization by having short upskilling sessions or focus group discussions. So impart them with few skills, and then they need to be handheld first in themselves, because not many leaders or managers have experience of how to manage employees remotely, right? So they need to be equipped themselves with skills through training, coaching, attending sessions, and that is when they will be able to translate that back to employees. I think a large impetus is on the leaders and the employees and the managers of how to run the organization. It needs to be a very, very collaborative effort, and it needs to come from all stakeholders of the organization.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have a next question from Mohammed Asif. He asks, what challenges will be faced by HR person to build positive culture in organization?
Okay, I think the most important challenge is you try anything right now with the employees, the anything for change, right? The first thing human mind does is it resistance. So resistance to change will be the first thing that they'll have to encounter, because we were all forcibly asked to lock us ourselves down during the lockdown. That itself is a huge change. So any initiative you use, make sure there for any cultural shift to happen needs to be a gradual process. One. Number two, leaders need to role model themselves of those changes. Number three, tell them why they're making those changes. I think most organizations fail because you're just told what to do. You have never told why to do this. So provide them an explanation as to why. And cultural change is a gradual process. It takes a bit of time for you to get into any kind of an organizational change, let alone an individual to change.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from Nishok. He's asking, in home, most of the time we spend using laptop and mobile, which gives mental and physical problem. But to work or study, laptop or mobile is much needed. And so, how to get deviate from electronic accessories to overcome stress?
Okay, very, very good and a brilliant question. I think all of us need to do this, right? It's called digital detoxification. There's a term for that. Yes, for studies, you need laptop. For work, you need laptop. There is no other way. This is the platform through we work. But other times, at times when you're not working, at times when you're not studying, how much of time do we spend on our phones? We can say use an approach that through the night we just switch on the notifications and don't look at it in the morning. Number one. Or just say that once a week, say for example Sundays, I'm just not going to use my phone. That's as simple as that. Or have short sessions in which you're not looking at your phone, because as he rightly said, it is really playing on every employee's mind and it is causing a lot of harm to the body. You might be using it for the right content, but overexposure to do anything will pose a problem. So you need to limit the use outside your study and your work by simply staying away from it. Start from few minutes a day. Start from say 1 hour a day. At the end of my work day, as soon as I log out of the work, I need to step away from my phone for 1 hour or my laptop for 1 hour. That itself is a big challenge. Like I said, we are in a technology enabled world. We always have this need to immediately respond to some email, immediately respond to WhatsApp. The need to be constantly available is actually consuming us.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have a question from Nelson Kingston. He asks, what makes employees much happier, work from home or work in industry?
That's an interesting question. I think I can't have one blanket approach answer for that. I think both has its advantages and disadvantages. It depends what kind of work environment you come from. But I think initially, I think before lockdown, all employees used to say, you know what, if I get work from home, I would be so happy, I would spend more time. But now, when we're actually getting to do more of that, we are seeing other kind of problems, that is, you can't switch off. So I think it has to be a balanced approach of work from home and work from office, because you need both at the end of the day. You don't want to be locked down. And you know what is the biggest thing for human beings? If you take away freedom from them, that will result in a lot of issues. So there needs to be a freedom of movement when things return to normal. So it has to be a mixed balance of both.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from, one second, ma'am.
I think Kapil wanted to ask.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm seeing Kapil's question. Okay. He wanted to ask, I would like to have few insights on reskilling of employees in the new normal. How can it be made more effective, or how do we do that?
Okay, so reskilling can happen through different ways, right? And I'm telling this in the context of the COVID situation. It can be through webinar sessions like this, number one, but this in itself will not be enough. So yes, for example, say today I have given you guys a lot of tips or talks on positive resources, but are employees following through? Are you guys checking on them? Periodic checks on their mental health, periodic training, coaching, interventions. It needs to be on a continuous and a regular basis. I think most of the managers unfortunately have to focus on their business priorities and their strategies, but we forget that we are working in not a very normal situation, and the interventions are also needed to take care of the mental health of the employees, because you don't know deep down what they're suffering from. So it has to be a regular continuous approach of all the things that I've mentioned so far.
Yes, ma'am. We have another question from N. Srinivasan. He's asking, talk about resilience during this curfew and lockdown. Many employees feeling job insecurity and migrated to agrarian society. It's easy in this situation. Is it easy in this situation?
No, definitely it's not easy. But like I told, when human beings are faced with the question of survival, we have this capacity to do whatever we have to do to get food on the table. So we might probably leave a high furnishing IT job and go back to our villages and do what is possible, because it helps us to stay with families. We have seen thousands of laborers migrating. We have seen thousands of people leaving jobs just to go back and stay with their families, because they're scared of the well-being of their families. So in this situation, they'll make do with whatever is available, but it is not easy.
We have a next question. Once again, ma'am. We have a question from Mohan Aravind. He's asking, new recruits, especially freshers, might have to start their work from home. So how can we give them a sense of work culture as they can't go to the workplace now?
Interesting question. Interesting. So you have a lot of virtual onboarding sessions these days, where HRs have to, orient everyone virtually. You have to read through your employee policies virtually, and you have to actually start working in an organization where you have not even met your employees physically. So I think there are strategies in many organizations put in place. We are, I know there is a largely a freeze on recruitment, but some critical skills which is required, people are employing them, and I think organizations are slowly equipping to do things virtually. For example, you can, I don't know, from your college or from the organization, have like a job readiness program, email etiquettes to working from home etiquettes. All of these have to be imparted to the freshers, because like employees, they don't have any exposure to that. But I think organizations can come up with programs to help this. So it's a well raised point.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is from Anto Suman. He asks, workplace gives negative mental health issues because of anxiety. How can you handle the person if you terminate in HR perspective?
How can you handle
the person if you terminate in HR perspective?
Yeah, I think the HR folks having to make a very very tough call when terms of retrenchments and laying off people. Very very difficult to tell someone that sorry that you no longer can work with us. So I think like we have been telling, you need to equip managers, you need to equip employees. HR professionals, I think, are also I've seen some of the organizations, they are taking the HR through the program of how to deal with the stress which is coming from the employees. For example, as an HR, you yourself are facing with trouble. Now you're like this how do I say, like a sponge where lot of negative information is being fed to you, but you still need to not soak it and be objective about it. So that requires a lot of coaching and training for the HR employees, because I don't think many of us are know how to deal with a difficult situation like this.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from Kannan Nair. Can we motivate employees by online at this pandemic situation to increase their sense of feeling towards our organization?
Yeah, definitely. The answer is a definite yes. Depends on what strategies that the organization employs. I've been seeing some organizations doing wonderful work on, they're putting up well-being challenge. They're putting up self-care challenge. So any communication, any initiative to just show employees that you're not in this alone, we are treading this path together, will itself increase the belongingness to the organization. So it all depends on how the organization is communicating and how they are treading the path along with them together.
Yes, ma'am. The next question is from Varshini. One second, ma'am. She's asking, as a HR fresher, what are the aspects in psychology that we need to focus and equip with to start our career in HR?
That's a nice question. I cannot give a short answer to this. It will be all the aspects as in any other situation. But since you are in this pandemic situation, you need to, I think there will be not a lot of hand holding. There will not be enough of on the job training like you would have got if you're working from the organization. So you have to rely on yourself. You need to be confident in your own abilities. And if I always tell this to young people, whoever is in my training, if you don't understand something, ask. If you don't ask, you'll never receive an answer. Don't shy away. Don't think any question is a stupid question. Make sure you ask and understand what is required of you, and then you can work from that place of confidence.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is from Vilas Vani. He's asking, what is the psychological impact of exploitation on employee?
Okay, exploitation of employee, I would need a little bit of explanation, but I'm just going to assume that exploitation of employee by the employer, if that's what they're referring to, because some organizations, since there are retrenchments happening, layoffs happening, resources are being cut down, so the work is being piled up on the employee. If that is what you're referring to, unfortunately that is something that we have to undergo because of this situation. And I told you, always offer or operate from a circle of influence over a circle of concern. Layoffs and retrenchments are not within your control, but if you can still have a conversation with your manager saying, this is the workload that I can commit to, and I'm really having a problem uh, coming up with or accepting this workload. I think many of us are operating from the fear of job security. You'll be like, no, if I tell all this to my manager, what if I lose my job tomorrow? Right? Most of us are operating at that level. So you need to come out of that fear and have have confidence in your abilities and operate from a place of confidence, because you need to have those conversations, because you will also be burnt out at the end of, I don't know, 3 months or 6 months.
Yes, ma'am. The next question is from Vignesh. He's asking, as a HR fresher, where I need to focus to give job satisfaction to my employees?
Mhm. Job satisfaction is very, very individualistic in nature. As an HR, you can just be an enabler. You can just play the support function or the support role. The satisfaction will actually have to come from an individual. You cannot get an individual to an organization, make them work when they're not interested in the job that they do. Then you can't do anything for that satisfaction. All that you can do is be a supporter and an enabler as an HR person.
Yes, ma'am. And another question from Darshika. She's asking, can you please explain about the role of government in these scenarios?
Yeah, government has a larger role to play than we can imagine. And I think most of the governments, say public health facilities, example, providing access to the healthcare, providing access to mental health services. Like I said, mental health is still a stigma to many of us. Then all the employees in public sectors, I think most of the like airline industry, right? Many of the retrenchments are happening even in the government sectors. So how do they deal with those kind of retrenchments? So I think government has a huge role to play in terms of various things that I have mentioned, and also communication to citizens, making sure their health is taken care, making sure the resources are available, making sure there are funds available to provide those resources. They have a huge role to play, and it's a very challenging time.
Okay, ma'am. That's all the questions we have, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for all the questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Um, we have been in the session from the very early morning, ma'am. I hope we haven't not disturbed you.
No, not at all.
We can receive many feedbacks that your explanation were very on point, and many of them are appreciating. Thank you for this, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request student coordinator Ritu to deliver the vote of thanks.
I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks for today's session. First and foremost, I would like to thank our speaker, Dr. Priyadashini N, for sharing a knowledge on positive approach of employees during the lockdown period. I may like to express a sincere gratitude to our college secretary, Sri Ashok Kumar Muntraji. I would also like to express our heartfelt thanks to the principal of DG Vaishnav College, Dr. R. Ganesan, and to our head of the department, Dr. B. Sulupriya ma'am, for giving us this wonderful opportunity for hosting this session. I am also grateful to our faculty members and my fellow students for supporting us. Last but not the least, I would also like to extend my gratitude to all the participants who were cooperative throughout these sessions. I hope you all would have gained some useful insights through this webinar. Once again, thank you all. Stay home and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ritu.
Thank
Now,
you.
I request all the participants to kindly fill up the feedback form to receive the e-certificate. The link to the feedback form is shared in the chat box. The same link will also be shared in the WhatsApp group also. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.